Welcome to Brixton Inner Space, and today we're having a conversation on this week's theme, Know My Values, Know Myself. I hope you've been enjoying listening to our speakers this week, and my personal experience with values is that if I live according to the values that I hold, my life becomes much easier to navigate, and I have less worry, less wasteful thinking, because I know that these are my principles and I don't let go of them, regardless of what others may think or say. Today, we're being joined by Sister Jasu, who is a very senior teacher at Global Cooperation House in London. And she also had the fortune of being very closely associated with Daddy Janki, whose picture is here. And she was, of course, our very, very, very well-loved, very senior yogi who lived to be 104. And so perhaps she'll share some of her experience with Dadi. But let me start off by welcoming Sister Jasu today. And let me ask you, Sister Jasu, the question arises, is there a place for values in today's society? Because we see so much greed, corruption, negativity all around us. What do you think? Is there a place for values?
Thank you so much, and hello to everyone. And yes, it's an interesting question. Is there a place for values in one's life? If you really look at society and go back a few years, maybe 20, 30 years, you would see that people's lives were full of value, very meaningful, very purposeful. But in recent times, you see a lot of what you've just mentioned, a lot of greed, corruption, deception, so many negative things. And partly, I think, it's the time we're going through, and everything goes through this cycle of time where at one point it is so elevated, it's in its highest position, and then it comes down. And so everything goes through these stages. And so in a sense, it's nothing new. For us, it's in a way you could say to be expected, but then how do we still continue to live in such a world? And I think, as you mentioned, for us to be living with our values, if we actually practice those values in our lives, then we're able to actually have a very meaningful, very successful, very happy life. Without those values, it's as though life has no purpose, life has no meaning. And so I'm really kind of seeing that if I really want to lead a very happy, stable life, then I definitely have to have values in my life. And if I don't have them, then it's time for me to start practicing them, inculcating them into my life so that I'm actually able to make some sense of the life I'm living. Otherwise, it's just like I've come here, I have taken this birth, but it's not meaningful. It doesn't hold any value. And before I know it, it will be the end of my journey in this physical birth, kind of, so to say. And so to make my life meaningful, I really would concentrate on practicing the values. And if I look into my life, I see that it has value. There are lots of values in my life, but then you find that there is one or two prominent values, which then actually give so much more depth to other values also. And as you mentioned before, I've had I've had the great fortune of being with Daddy Janki, and one of her strengths was honesty. She always used to talk about pleasing the Lord with your honesty. When you have honesty, when you have an honest heart, the Lord is pleased with you. And so that's one thing that she's taught us from the very beginning. She herself was in search of truth, and she practiced Raj Yoga meditation for over 80 years. And on that journey, I think the seed was truth, looking for God, who is known as the truth. And Daddy Janki afterwards, in the latest years that she was around, she always used to be speaking of these words in threes. And one of the three triplets that I remember that she was very famous, very well known for, is her, I'll speak the words in Hindi first, comes easily in my mind, Sachai, Sadgi, and Safai. And so she was talking about honesty, cleanliness, and simplicity. And really, to know what is the place of honesty in my life. If I want to be happy, if I want to make everyone else happy, then truly I need to have this value of honesty and truthfulness. Because you can see, if you tell one lie, in order to cover that one lie, you would have to tell 10 other lies, probably 100 lies. And before you know it, it's like you're leading a life of lies. But if you actually have courage and you just tell the truth and are honest from the beginning, then at that time you would have needed that extra courage, but then you are free for all the time and you don't have to live in fear that you might get caught out. And so really just seeing how the value of honesty is so important in my life, because really without honesty, I'm deceiving myself, and at some point that is going to explode. And so I don't want to be leading a life whereby I'm going to end up falling down in that sense. Because really, if I want to be ascending, if I want to go somewhere, reach great heights, then I need that honesty. I need to have truth. And for Dari Janki, it was as though truth was her companion. And so for me also to have the values as my companion in this way, so that if ever I'm in any kind of danger, in any kind of situation like that, then I'll find that it's the values that's going to take me away from that. It's going to protect me in that situation. If I don't have values in my life, then that situation is going to endanger me and I will end up in a worse situation. And so I always feel that it's important to have such values in my life. So that was just one aspect of honesty. But then if you really think about the honesty in depth, then there's honesty with my own self. There's honesty with the people around me at home, in my family. There's honesty with people at work. There's honesty in the community, in the world. And so there's so many different levels of honesty. And to what extent am I actually being honest, first of all, with myself? And often I can be deceiving myself, thinking, oh, well, I'm fine and happy and everything. And I put on a smiling face. But inside, there's a lot of turmoil happening. Just now we were sitting in the dining room and one sister came and she said, oh, there's so much turmoil. And you could see her face was smiling. And so I was thinking that internally there could be one thing going on and externally something else completely opposite, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And if I was honest, then I would be able to see what's happening, and I would be able to be balanced in both situations, internally and externally. So even with the turmoil, still be able to be stable in that stage, not that it winds me down and then I can't think straight. And so really being able to face any situation with the values that I hold in my life. And so even if one saying that we have in Hindi is that even if you have to die, you must not let go of your principles. And so whatever principles I am actually practicing in my life, sometimes a situation will come whereby I'm tested on that. And so if I'm really true to my values, then I would actually renounce whatever it was that was being an obstruction, that was coming in the way. Because what is more dear to me is not that situation, but it's the values. And I don't want to let myself down by having to let go of those principles. I want to be true to myself in that sense. So one is honesty with the self, then talking, and that's very deeply then connected with cleanliness also. And if I think about cleanliness, one is the external cleanliness. And of course, everyone loves to walk into a room which is spick span and there's nothing lying around and everything. But then sometimes it feels a little bit cold. But if you go into a room that's well lived in, and there's lots of memories there. There's lots of souvenirs there. On one hand, you would think that is a lot of clutter there. On another hand, you would see that there's so much experience there, because all that clutter is from the experience, the awards and the recognition of everything, and all of that is there. And so, but still everything is put away nicely and tidily. On the other hand, some places you go walk into and everything is just lying around everywhere and so much clutter. If that is just on the outside, you can imagine what's happening on the inside. And so do I want to be full of that clutter in my mind, or do I want to be completely clean and stable, that there's no clutter in my mind? So really talking about cleanliness, of having that cleanliness of heart, cleanliness of the mind. And so my heart being so clean that I don't have any kind of negative feeling towards anyone else. And often situations happen and someone says a word or two to you and it bothers you. But if my heart is clean, then I would say that whatever that person has said, they have said according to the role that they are playing. That's their character. But then for me to actually accept it in the way that I want to accept it, so that I don't get hurt by it. So I play my role to the best of my ability, in the sense that I don't allow their words to influence me in any way. And I don't hold any grudging feelings towards them just because they've said something to me. So I remember the head of our organization in India, Dadi Prakashmani, that often she has to deal with situations and people, and she would meet both the sides, or even someone tells her something, and the next minute it's as though she's completely forgotten. And she will still talk to that person as though nothing had happened the minute before. Whereas for some of us, it's like a situation has happened, someone has said something to you, and so you will avoid that person for at least a week or two until you feel comfortable inside yourself. And so, do I really want to have that kind of feeling in myself? If my heart is clean, then I won't hold any negative feeling towards anyone else, regardless of what they've said to me. And so really practicing cleanliness to that extent that there is no feeling of anything, that's no residue of anything in myself. And then leading a life of simplicity, truly being the head of the organization, and yet Dari Janki would not hold on to anything. If you went into her room, you would see that it's a simple room, a small room, and just basic things in there, a few photos and 3 or 4 chairs, and just the angels. She used to love angels because it's like we're on this journey to become an angel. And so on her windowsill, there was a collection of angels, but other than that, there wasn't anything there. In her bedroom, you would see that it's just a cupboard, one wardrobe, just the dressing unit, and just her bed and a lampshade and an alarm clock. But other than that, nothing else there. And so she used to actually be very proud of this and say, if you want to go and see my room, you're most welcome. See how simple it is. So having simplicity, but it's not just simplicity around yourself, but simplicity in mind and thought. Because really the simplicity in mind comes from not having any kind of ego or arrogance, and just having that humility. What she always used to say is, I haven't had any formal education. I only went to school for 2 years. And in those 2 years, she had done enough of 3 or 4 years of education, because she was quite clever in that sense. But she said, not having had any formal education, and yet being able to meet people like prime ministers and presidents and everything else. And what was the vision with which she would meet them? It wasn't that she would think, oh, I'm going to meet a prime minister. The feeling was, I'm going to meet a soul who is a child of God. And in that sense, what am I going to give them so that they're able to have a memory that they're not going to forget for all life? And so truly it was a life of such simplicity that even though she was meeting all of those people, it would be like she's just meeting ordinary people. But yet being able to elevate them. When a person came into her room, they might have been unhappy. They might have been crying, going through some situation or something. They would meet Dadi, they would spend a few minutes with her, and within no time, you would see them smiling. They come out of the room smiling and happy.
Mhm.
And so it was Daddy not doing anything else, but just giving them so much love and sharing the happiness that she herself has in her heart with those other people, so that they're able to forget whatever situation of sorrow they were in and be able to uplift them.
Mhm.
So truly, it was amazing seeing Daddy work like that. We used to call her the surgeon. So she would be sitting in the sitting room meeting people, and he would say she's doing a surgery on someone right now. So it was so nice watching her. But really, the simplicity with which she did everything was just great. Mm.
She had those qualities with everyone that she met. It wasn't that it was conditional, that with some people she would act one way and with other people another way. Because when you have that value, let's say of love
Mm.
or of kindness or of compassion, you
Mm.
have it with everyone, not just with certain people, right? So
That's
it's really
right.
constant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was one thing she taught us also, to be natural with everyone else, to be equal with everyone. Not that you have one set of conditions for one person and another set of conditions for another person, that you have love for someone and you have dislike for another person, especially if you're on the path of spirituality and you're looking at each person as a unique soul. And
Mhm.
yes, each person is going through their own journey. Each person has their own ups and downs, but then I don't judge the person with whatever they are going through. I don't look at the person with whatever role they are performing, but I look at the soul. And if I look at the soul, that person is a spiritual being, that person is a child of God. And so, in that sense, that person is my brother or sister. So, even everywhere she would go to meet people, she would also just have that same vision that this person is my brother. And actually, just sharing an experience of when Daddy had gone to meet Prince Charles. She had gone to his house, and she was like a
House.
grandmother. The Clarence House, the place where he stays. And she went there, and Daddy has this habit of putting everything right so that it's comfortable for everyone to have a lovely experience and a lovely meeting. So she went there, and the settees, the sofas, were actually quite distant. So then she started telling them to move around the furniture a little bit so that they could sit closely together and then be able to have a nice, intimate conversation. And so anyone else would think, I can't move anything, I can't do anything. But Dadi actually just living with her own values and thinking that I want to give the best experience to this person. And so to make them comfortable also. So it was like she was his grandmother. And he actually felt and always used to say also that Dadi is like a grandmother to me. And so for her to go and start arranging the furniture in that sense, it was not unheard of. Means it was natural for her to be doing that. And if you were to actually just remain very stiff and say, I can't move anything, then it's not a natural thing. And so you wouldn't be able to give a natural experience in that sense. So that he wouldn't think twice in that sense, but what would be the best in the best interest for everyone. And that's why she would do that. So it's just amazing watching how Daddy used to do things to please people, actually.
And that was true whether she was with a king or whether she was with,
That's
one of
right.
us or, an
Yeah,
ordinary person, right? She would still have the same
that's right.
attitude, the same vibration, same, right?
Because she was actually being herself.
Mhm.
If I'm actually putting on a show and with this person, I have to be someone up there, and with another person, they're down here, so I have to be the same as them. It's not being true to yourself. And so for me to be true to myself, I have to be how I am comfortable. And so this is how Dadi was, that regardless of who the person was, what their position was, but she was seeing each one as a child of God. And so in that sense, she wanted to just give the best of herself so that that person would have a beautiful experience. And many times she would do that, regardless of who had come to meet her, but she would put aside whatever she was doing and she would give her full attention, even to the extent that if we wanted to ask her something, then she would say, wait, I'm actually sitting with another person and that person has come at this time because they don't have another time. They might not get another opportunity. And if I am taking away from their time, then that's not right. And so in that sense, that he would actually value the importance of the situation of the person in front of her right now, and giving them her utmost attention. So this was part of her simplicity in life also, that you don't take away a person's time in that sense. It was really lovely just watching Daddy deal with different people, different situations in that sense. Daddy used to love to encourage people. She herself was a very enthusiastic person, but she would want to give enthusiasm to everyone else. And I know, because I do the translation for the stuff that comes from Madhubana headquarters, it comes in Hindi. And for us to benefit here in the West, I have to translate into English. And whatever that he receives, she'll just read a paragraph or so, and it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, but even at night, if it's late, she'll still think, no, I have to finish this, I want to read this. She'll go through it, and her reaction will be, this is so wonderful, this is so great. And then she'll think, I want to give to everyone else. And then she'll tell me, can you translate this as soon as possible so that we can give it to the English class also? And so she never thought of anything as negative. She never thought of anything as it's not good enough. Whatever effort someone has put in something, it is worthwhile. And so she'll appreciate it with that same interest, thinking that whatever someone has done, it's great. In this sense, she was to encourage everyone and empower them that they should be doing something greater also. She never put anyone down.
Yeah, it's this quality of respect. You know, I think that, you know, many of us are taught that, okay, you have to respect people who, let's say, are older than you, or respect people who have a higher position than you. Or if you're in a job, you have to show respect to your boss or whatever. But this quality of respect is something that really needs to be given to every single soul, right? And it starts with the self, right? Having self-respect. But can you speak a little bit more on that?
Definitely. What we are taught here also is first and foremost to have self-respect. If you don't have that self-respect, then you cannot give respect to others. How can you respect someone else if you're not able to respect your own self? And even in terms of talking about respect for the self, I have to respect everything about myself. And so the lesson that we taught is respecting, first of all, our own body. We just think of our body as a machine, and we just go nonstop with it from morning till night, and expecting it to just carry on working all day long. But then you can imagine what happens to a machine, a gadget that you keep on for longer than it's meant to go. It's eventually just going to blow out, and you're not going to be able to use it. And the same happens with our body. And so being respectful to the body, and to the extent that the lesson we're taught is consider this body to be your temple. And that I, the soul, am the idol, the living deity who's actually sitting in this temple. So if I'm aware of myself, this body as being my temple, and I see myself as this deity idol sitting in there, then I will respect this being, and I respect this temple, because you wouldn't see a temple full of dirt and rubbish and everything. The temple is always kept clean and tidy, and it's a very sacred place. And so in the same way, I treat this body as being very sacred, because this is the body through which I am actually on this spiritual journey. And this journey is taking me to my destination. The goal that I have in life is taking me to that destination. So just as the destination is important, the journey is also important. And so being able to be in this body, treating it like a temple, and acknowledging it in that way, that it is something so sacred, so special, that I have to look after it. Because if I don't look after it, it's not going to give me any kind of return in that sense. And so first and foremost, being respectful to the body, respectful to my time. If I make use of my time in a worthwhile way, I'm using time properly, then I will find that I have time in everything that I'm doing. And I won't be running late with everything else. But if I'm not respectful to time, I'm just wasting my time, then time will come that I won't have time for anything else.
Mhm.
And so being able to respect time to the extent that I make use of every second in a worthwhile way. If I waste time, then my time will be wasted. Just in the same way as if I'm wasting people's time, then someone will come to waste my time.
Mm.
And so being aware of time in such a way that I have to use time properly for myself, but also for others. Like if I am late for a meeting and there's 10 people in the room for the meeting, my being late by 2 minutes means I'm actually late by 20 minutes because it's 10 people's time of 2 minutes. And sometimes we don't actually realize that I'm actually eating other people's time also.
Mm.
So being respectful of other people's time and keeping that accuracy with time. Again, we're very fortunate with our senior sisters here who are very disciplined about time.
Mm.
And so making sure that everything happens at the right time, everything finishes at the right time, rather than going on over longer than necessary, because then that has an impact over so many things.
Mhm.
And I'm especially remembering Sister Jayanti. And she is so precise with her timing. Like if you ask her to do an hour's talk, it will be just an hour and no longer than that. And everything will be included within that. It's not like she will leave anything incomplete or whatever, but just the way the clock works inside is like everything is accurate.
Mm.
And again, the example we had with Daddy Janki, like she never used to wear a watch. She used to say that that's actually like the handcuff. And so she didn't want to be handcuffed in that sense. But yet the timing in here was so precise that because she had this whole discipline of everything, doing everything according to the right time, then she would be able to do everything at the right time accurately. You would think that you might need the clock to see what time it is to be able to be accurate as to what you need to do. Like every hour we have the meditation, which we call traffic control. And Dadi, even without her watch, even without a clock around her, internally she would feel now it's time for traffic control. And sometimes she'd tell me, like I often was traveling with her, and she'd mention to me, "Can you see what the time is? I think it's traffic control time now." And it would be right, just a minute or two to go, and it would be traffic control time. So it means if I have made use of time properly, then time will serve me also. The same as matter. If I have served matter, matter will serve me.
By
And so
serving matter, for
that's
those
right.
who may not understand,
Yeah,
serving matter. Mhm.
serving matter, that's right. So if I have served matter, then it's going to serve me. And we've seen examples of this again with Dari Janki, that she always used to sit and give, I will use the word Hindi word sakash, but which is giving this current, the power of love and light to the world outside. So when she'd be sitting in meditation, she would be doing that. And in that, she would be connecting with God. So it was taking vibrations, power from God, and then sending it out to the world. So that was her service to nature. And so nature also served her. So whenever she had a program to do, even though a few minutes before the program, it would have been raining or stormy or something like that, the time she has to attend the program, everything will be quiet. Everything will be just fine. And as soon as the program is finished, then it will start raining again.
Mhm.
And so really seeing how when you have served nature, nature will help you also. It will cooperate with you. And so you find the right things happening at the right time. So it's just amazing to see how Dadi always got everything that she wanted because she had served selflessly. If she hadn't done this, then she wouldn't have got that result. And so even just seeing now, Dadi was in the UK for about 40 years,
Mhm.
and she came at the age of about 58. And she came with nothing actually, just her 2 sets of clothes. And from that, she built an empire. Global House is a result of her tapasya, her meditation. All the centers abroad are a result of the meditation that she's done. And she's gone out to serve people worldwide. And then she's come back with whatever gifts they have given, whatever money they have given. With that, other centers have opened. And so now we could say that 120 countries have centers, which I would say is the result of that is tapasya. That she had served nature, she had served souls, and so those souls are serving her. And with that, she's using that to serve everyone else. So really respecting everything in that sense.
Yes, quite amazing.
Yeah. And Daddy always had a vision of newness, always wanting something new to be happening, especially the month of January. She'd say, okay, now for us, 18th January is a very special day. And so she would say, okay, 18th January is coming. And so we want to see what new magic there will be this January. And almost every year in those early years that she was here, there would be a new center opening somewhere. And that would be Baba's magic, that something is happening, something new is happening somewhere.
Dani and Sister Jayanti, who you also mentioned, these are individuals who are role models of living their values, right?
Yes.
They don't just talk about values, they are the values. They just give you such a clear example to follow, because even as parents, sometimes we may want to teach our children values. So we speak words and we say, oh, you should behave this way or that way, but then we may do the opposite, right? Sometimes. But to have that kind of a role model of someone who is just really living according to their values, and because of that, the karma that they created, and they were able to do so much.
That's true. So talking about living by the values, I'm just remembering when you talked about Daddy Janki, even to the age of 104, she always used to have three basic questions in life. Who am I? Who is mine? And what do I need to do? And these were the foundation of all of these, are the values in her life. First of all, who am I? So till the end, the question of knowing myself. And every day she asked the question, who am I? You come up with a different answer. And so just imagine the depth of the knowledge that she had in her mind, churning that knowledge and coming up with a new answer of who am I, but going deeper inside the self and knowing the self, who am I? I'm not just this point of light. What kind of a point of light am I? And so I am a very loving being. I'm a very peaceful being. I'm a very generous being. So every day you're coming up with a new quality. And if you were to make a list of the qualities that you have, it's just endless. And so knowing myself to that extent of what is the goodness, what is the quality in myself, who do I belong to? I belong to that one there, but who is he? And then going into the depth of who he is my everything. He is my world. I'm talking about God, the Supreme. And so she was living with that principle that God is my whole world. I don't need anything from anyone else. Everything I want, I get from him. And so just the importance of knowing who I belong to. And then what do I need to do? It's like every moment he is telling me what I need to do, how I need to use my eyes, how I need to use my ears, how I need to use my tongue, my mouth, how I need to use my hands. So every moment he is teaching me in this sense. And so what I need to do, not just for myself, but for the whole world. And so just three basic questions, but even within that, it was like a whole ocean of answers, every day a different answer. And this is because of living with those values, because there's so much importance given to the values. And in fact, actually, at one point, Daddy was saying, it's not a question of ticking off a list that I need to have this value, I need to have this value, I need to have this value, that, okay, today I worked on contentment, today I worked on patience, today I worked on generosity. But if there is that connection with the Supreme, then with that connection, automatically my life becomes such, it is full of value. And then I'll find that every moment is being lived with those values. Then I don't need to think anything, because he is guiding me, he is touching my intellect. And because he is touching my intellect, everything comes naturally. And so living with those values knowing that I am actually connected with the one who is the most valuable one. Connecting with that one, and then I don't need anything else. And then automatically, whatever I'm receiving from him, I won't even have the feeling that I am giving to everyone else, but it's just sharing with everyone else what I have received from that one. And that's what she wanted to do all the time, that whatever experience I have received, whatever experience I have had with God, the God's love that I have experienced, I want everyone else to have the same experience. And so this was one of her most important values, that to share with everyone else what I have received from God, because it's not my personal thing. It's what God has given. It's a gift from God to me, but I want that gift to be experienced by everyone else. And so this was the greatest value that Daddy had, being a bestower, that every time someone came in front of her, they would go laden with gifts. One person would have come and given a gift to Daddy. The next person will come, Daddy will give that gift away to that person. She never wanted to hold anything by herself, because what am I going to take with me? But the happiness that person gave me something, they got happiness that I've given something to Daddy. But then the next person comes and Daddy gives them that gift. That person will think, Daddy has given me this gift, and they become happy with that. So it's the happiness of both people. And so in this way, increasing people's happiness also. So giving that happiness to people, this was one of the things that Daddy loved most, just to be happy herself and give that happiness to everyone else.
Yes, very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Sister Jasu. Did you have any other comments that you wanted to make, or should we close perhaps with some meditation, or what would you like to do?
No, I'm just so grateful that I had this opportunity of living so many years with Daddy and having had so much personal tuition from her. And thank you to you, Cathy, for giving me this opportunity of sharing with all of you. So like I said, if I just keep it to myself, then it's only one-fold, but sharing with all of you, then it becomes multifold. And so thank you so much for the opportunity of being with all of you today.
It's Dottie, but it's also you and your capacity to learn from Dottie and to hold all of these jewels and now to really share them with others. It's beautiful. That's what she did. That's what she taught. And now you're doing it too.
Just one comment about that, the last comment. The more you keep on living those memories, especially the memories that have taught you something, the memories that have given you life in a sense, the younger your life will be, but the longer your life will be also, because your mind is so active, so alive. And this is what Daddy did, and that's why she lived to the age of 104. Like when she was with Baba in the early days, with Brahma Baba in the early days, when Daddy came to London, then she didn't have Baba with her, but what she did have were all the memories that were here. And so she would be sharing with us in class all those memories. And so even something that would have happened about 60 years ago, but the memory kept her young. And so all the time reliving those memories, and that's what kept her young at heart. And that's why she lived a healthy, happy life till the age of 104. And so for us also, so many precious memories that we've accumulated, and so just constantly to relive those memories. It's just so wonderful.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining. So this week we have a new theme, and it will be authority, autonomy, and affirmation, the 3 A's. And so tomorrow for our daily message, the topic will be simplicity, and Prabha will be speaking about that. So thank you again for joining us. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.